Last time on America's Story. Will there be a civil war? Find out after these messages.
Nah, they figured it out. We're all good. No. No, they did, of course, have the big Civil War. Yeah. The Civil War. Yes. So, good morning, Wham! What's up? We're learning all about the Civil War. Or as Guns N' Roses song says, what's so civil about war anyway? That was from Cool Hand Luke movie, but I digress. So we're going to learn all about the Civil War in one chapter. Alright, so this is a good summary. We're just going to get the basics this week. And then next week we're going to read a chapter a day from, just like we did with the American Revolution, of a more, higher level book to get some detail on it. But right now this will sum it up so you kind of get it. And then we'll get into some more detail. And then we'll be going on to the civil rights, which is very different from civil war. Civil war is when a country fights against each other. What's funny about that is the South, even though they lost, they considered themselves another country, and they used to try and call this the war between the states, or the war of northern aggression, believe it or not. Which is kind of funny because they lost. But, and they were trying to lessen that, But finally this war, which was really all about slavery and its existence in America. And finally there was a war, and eventually Abraham Lincoln got rid of slaves through the Emancipation Proclamation, and then through the 13th Amendment, which got rid of slavery, which I'm sure the chapter we'll discuss, which is amazing because even then the 13th Amendment barely passed to get rid of slavery when only the northern states were voting, which to me is like unbelievable. But it did pass, so it's a good thing. And the Civil War really kind of is a big watershed moment. It really tells us about our country. There's a big difference before the Civil War and after the Civil War. We kind of really became the country we are. All right, and with all the good and bad things in that. All right, so let's learn about the Civil War. It's amazing we had to have a war to get rid of slavery. Like, it couldn't be like, slavery's bad, let's vote it out. Like that, you'd think that would work. It didn't. And that's why we had to have a war over it. All right, let's hit it. The South had started a new country called the Confederate States of America. President Lincoln did not want the North to fight against the South. He wanted the South to become part of the United States again. The South also did not want a war, but the South did not want to be part of the Union. The United States Army owned a fort called Fort Sumter in South Carolina. In Charleston, doesn't even say Charleston. South Carolina was one of the Confederate states. People who lived in the Confederate states were called Confederates. They said that the United States must give Fort Sumter to the Confederate States of America, but Union soldiers would not surrender at Fort Sumter. In 1861, Confederate soldiers began to shoot at Fort Sumter. A war between the North and South had begun. This war was called the Civil War. The Civil War lasted 4 years. People in the South fought to have their own country, the Confederate States of America. The North fought so that all states would remain in the Union. The Confederates thought they would win. They had many good army generals and brave soldiers, but the North was stronger than the South. The North had more people and more soldiers. The North had more money to pay for a war. The North had more railroads. Union soldiers traveled on these railroads to many places. The North had more factories, too. Northern factories made guns for the war. The South had few factories. Robert E. Lee was the leader of the Confederate Army. Lee loved the United States. He did not like slavery. He also loved his own state of Virginia. President Lincoln wanted Robert E. Lee to lead the Union Army, but Lee would not fight against his family and his friends in Virginia. Instead, he became leader of the Confederate Army. General Lee was a good leader. He led the Confederate Army for 4 long years. I would dispute that. He really didn't take charge right away. So it's probably more like 3.5 or 3 years, but that's okay. President Lincoln had a goal. His goal was for the North and South to be one nation. He decided to help the Union win by working to end slavery. In 1862, he wrote a paper that said all slaves in the Confederate States were free. He wrote that slaves would be free on January 1st, 1863. The paper was called the Emancipation Proclamation. Many African American slaves left the South. Thousands of brave African Americans joined the Union Army. They fought in many battles of the Civil War. Women in the North and South helped during the war. They managed farms and factories. Some women became spies. Many women became nurses. Clara Barton was a famous Union nurse. She traveled to many battlefields. Clara Barton cared for soldiers who were hurt. Also, if you remember, we learned about Dorothea Dix. Dorothea Dix was the head nurse. Why they mention her in one chapter and not the other, I don't know. But Dorothea Dix was also a big one, just like Clara Barton. At the start of the Civil War, the South won many battles. After 2 years, the South lost more and more battles. Most of the Civil War battles were fought in the South. The fighting destroyed houses, cities, and plantations in the South. General Ulysses S. Grant was the leader of the Union Army. He won many battles. In 1865, the Union soldiers captured Richmond, Virginia. Richmond was the capital of the Confederate States. General Lee knew the Confederates could not win the war. There was very little food to eat in the South. Lee's army was hungry. The soldiers did not have enough guns. Lee did not want more people to die in the war. Lee surrendered to Grant in April 1865. The Civil War was over. Plans were made to return the Confederate States to the Union. General Lee returned to Virginia. He told the South to help the United States become a strong country. President Lincoln was glad that the United States was one nation again. He was also unhappy. Almost 600,000 soldiers in the North and South had been killed. Thousands of other soldiers were badly hurt. President Lincoln had new goals when the war ended. He wanted Americans to work together to rebuild the South. Lincoln wanted Americans in the North and South to like one another again. President Lincoln never reached these goals. He was shot 5 days after the Civil War ended. President Lincoln died the next day. Americans in the North and South were sad because a great leader was dead. People in the North and South were united once again. It would take many more years to end the anger between the North and the South. But together they would continue to make the United States a great nation. So that is a really good summary of the Civil War, but we'll get into far more details on that. There were a lot of famous battles not mentioned, and of course, even though African Americans were free and not slaves, we're still fighting the battle, hopefully peacefully now, but fighting for their rights. And African Americans still, they have all rights by law now, which is good. But we're still fighting to make sure that the law is real and that they're treated fairly. So we still got a way to go, but we'll keep going. And that's the beautiful thing about America. We're trying to fight for everyone to be equal. All right, so that's the Civil War. We'll see you later. Bye.